Now, it's the 40th anniversary of the formation of ECOWAS. In May 1975, the leaders of 15 West African countries established the group to advance regional cooperation and self-sufficiency. Well, yesterday there was a meeting at the African Research Institute here in London to discuss the future of the organization and to reflect on its successes and challenges. One of the speakers was Patrick Smith, who's the editor of the Africa Report, and he joins me now. Patrick, great to have you on Africa Wrap. Not the best way, though, to celebrate a significant anniversary with a row over the self-interest of some presidents getting in the way of progress.
You could say it that way. The other way to look at it is the fact that it's the first regional economic organization on the continent to broach this issue, which is one of the live issues in Africa at the moment, to have term limits. So I think the fact that the leaders got together in West Africa to try and push this idea forward was a good sign.
Yeah, but what's the point of broaching it if you're not going to adopt it?
Then they've got to convince Yahya Jammeh and Faounya Singbe to support it. Now, I think the problem is those two countries, they speak for themselves. They're the two poorest and most unstable countries in the region. So, I mean, people can draw their own conclusions. Why are those two governments with their presidents seeking another term when their own record of governance is pretty weak?
It does, though, demonstrate one of the challenges that ECOWAS faces, doesn't it? I mean, that what is best for the region can often be undermined by the needs and wishes of individual states. But I suppose you get the same thing in the European Union, don't you?
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's a lot of similarities. I mean, don't forget, in 75, we still had sort of military coups in Portugal. The European Union was, trying to form an economic union under those circumstances. And as we know, there's a big debate about Greece fixing the criteria to join the monetary union. So, these things aren't easy. But I think the issue maybe in ECOWAS is that there is a life and death reality there, that they've got to integrate these markets, they've got to integrate these countries with some sort of economic union to make developmental progress.
You know a lot about Africa, Patrick. I mean, you've traveled through the continent, you've worked extensively, covered Africa, West Africa particularly extensively. Has ECOWAS been a force for good in West Africa, do you think?
I think it has. And the reason I would say that is if you look at the turmoil that the region has been through in the last 25, 30 years, think back to the Liberian War, the Sierra Leone War, Guinea-Bissau turned into a drugs hub, and Mali, the insurrection in northern Mali, the jihadist revolt there. In all those conflicts, ECOWAS has put together some sort of response to that. It may not have been as fast and as effective as one would have liked initially, but they responded. 20 years ago, a guy called Robert Kaplan wrote a book called The Coming Anarchy. And he premised it on what was happening in Liberia and Sierra Leone and said the future of this region is death and despondency, lack of governance, increasing criminalization, all the rest of it. At least in those two countries, that has been turned around. And you see countries that have elections, multi-party elections, and presidents emerging with a degree of legitimacy and a degree of freedom as well, as personal freedom. So I think you'd have to give them some bonus points for that. I think where it's fallen down is, interestingly enough, its core mission, which was the economic developmental issue. These economies, together, they're $675 billion worth of gross domestic product a year. That's the 21st biggest economy in the world. Yet these economies are still not trading with each other.
So looking ahead, just very briefly, Patrick, looking ahead, 40 years gone, what do you think the next few years hold for ECOWAS?
I hope there'll be a real push by the citizens of ECOWAS and the private sector in ECOWAS to integrate those economies. So you can really start to benefit from the economies of scale the region offers. You've got oil, you've got gas, you've got iron ore, you've got gold, you've got an incredible array of natural resources, you've got some of the most entrepreneurial people around. If that can be put together, it has a real chance for economic takeoff.
Patrick Smith, absolutely delighted to have you on Africa Wrap. Thank you very much indeed.